All right. So the PM leader session for this particular week, guys, the most important thing I think is to debrief what we did this morning, do a check in how are your teams going, and anything you'd like some support on, some on-the-spot coaching to be able to help through that. Because the view probably is if one team's going through it, then someone else might be going through it as well. I know we're a couple of weeks into the rent relief, the parameters, the guidelines that have been set, the processes along those lines. It's not necessarily new for the team now, but there's still waves of work coming at them, but at least it's not brand new kind of conversations. It's actually honing and tweaking those conversations that are coming through. So first of all, love to get your thoughts on the 6-step process. I actually did that at a property management accelerator a couple of years ago, but it's not something that necessarily is operational in the day-to-day operation of the business. I also want to create some things that not only can the team get value out of now in dealing with the current set of circumstances, but it can improve their skill set in the future as well. So we want to look at what skills we're taking forward with us, not just what are the things we need to deal with now along those lines. So I'd love to get your feedback on that.
We're just going to speak?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, loved it. We really loved that. The good thing, when I went to breakout, I was with one of my team members. So Josh, who's a young guy in property management. So he got a lot out of this too. And I think that's, a lot of seasoned property managers probably get all of this and do it all the time because they're used to problem solving constantly. But for him, he was like, oh, that was really good to hear. And I know I need more empathy because, he's a young guy that just thinks, oh, doesn't know, why can't you pay your rent sort of thing. So I think that was really good for him. And I know Cindy's laughing because he's not the most empathetic person, is he? So it was good to see those steps for him. So yeah, so definitely got a lot out of that, which is good.
Yeah, great.
And we'll do more of a debrief. We do tend to do our debrief at the end of the day when we have our PM catch up, and we'll talk about today's session and what we got out of it and what we're going to implement out of it. So
yeah, excellent, very, very good. Esther, for you?
But it was good to be rehashing it again.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time, and I've said this even at Kickstart, that I'm seeing my role more so now as an integration coach. So anyone who's been involved in the network for a while fundamentally knows the framework. It's actually about how we integrate that into the next phone call we have along those lines, or the next issue we have we got that present in the way that we have the conversation. The neat thing is, I think if we get it up on the wall somewhere, it means someone's got like a reference point to go to, which is quite useful. It's not like, hang on a tick, let me go and find my notes somewhere. Having it as a present way of doing it. Yeah. Cindy, anything you want to add to that?
No, it was actually really good to hear today. We're so busy solving problems, but going back to listening and things like that, and having a process in place, it's very useful for where we're at, right now in our industry. So great to hear. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, great. Sanchit, for you?
No, yes, definitely, Michael. It's really been really informative. We tried to I acquired for the team, in fact, new way of looking at things and kind of discussed it, especially in the breakout sessions, to how everybody else is navigating their teams and what sort of strategies they are applying. And if I look behind about, say, 6 weeks ago, everybody was kind of in uncharted waters. Things have now, the clouds have cleared. There's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and I think we steered it across. In fact, in our office, and because we've got multiple teams at various locations and offices, we've actually grown, and our area's been in control. And and it's all through various, dialogues and scriptings, and, we exchange the ideas which everybody else is doing, and then debriefing and brainstorming what's applicable to our team, and especially in our area and demography. So I think at this stage, our property management side of things have survived safely.
That's really good.
And week by week sessions are really important.
Yeah, great. Lisa, anything you want to chime in?
No, I think it's helped, like this morning's session, also not just for our tenants, also for our landlords, but our staff as well. Being able to help them understand a situation or have that empathy, just trying to get the feelers out there, have a chat with them, and yeah, I think on both sides, landlords, tenants, and our staff, it helps just to reiterate.
Yeah. And someone wants to, I think Matt or Hagen wants to let you know, we talk about team, not staff. I think Hagen, was that the correct? Something along those lines. So that's awesome. Thank you. Matt, for you, you're sitting in for Catherine, are you?
Looks that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
She was very impressed with this morning's Zoom call. She thought that was one of the best you've had, really relevant to the conversations that they're having with their team.
Good.
We'll chat after that. So no, it was I was just listening in, so it was a good session.
Yeah, great. And Melinda, for you? I'll just yep, good.
You're right. Yeah, no, appreciated it. Looking forward to sharing it with some other team members here. It's a clarity amongst the adrenaline that we've been running on. And we're doing well, but we could do better. And that framework definitely gives us a map to pause and breathe, and maybe a little bit more control around our organised chaos.
Yeah. Very good. Hagen, anything you want to chime in? Just need to unmute.
No, I'm behind Melinda. I think we've got through the heavy lifting, and now it's back to just talking to people. I think that hasn't changed. That's the main thing for us is being on the phones and seeking new opportunities.
Yeah.
Providing confidence in the process. We've just finalised our process, how to put the emails together for requests. I think now we've got that put to bed. We're speaking to other owners that have other properties that have started to ask about getting poor information from their current agents. We've had a number of those that Phil's had inquiries from.
Yeah. Well, look, when we look at it, 30% of landlords have properties with other agencies. Now's the time to demonstrate how great we are. I love the Catherine's comment in terms of going out with a care call to owners, to the landlords ahead of. So I know early on we had the session with Hannah from Tasmania, where she said, "Hey, I just want to give you a heads up that this has occurred to a landlord, but this is actually even proactive with that. Let me go out and do the care calls with the owners," which is great.
Michael, if I can chime in there, one thing I'm doing today is I'm actually doing 2 recordings or 2 videos. One to guys, so we acquired a rent roll back in Christmas, and that rent roll has actually been more affected by COVID-19 than our existing business. So I'm doing 2 videos today because they're 2 different types of clients, and I'm actually, as the owner of the business, going to just reach out on a 2-minute video just to sort of say, hey, hope you're doing well. We're here. This is what we're doing behind the scenes. We've also been trying to do some sort of creative thinking around, if properties are sitting vacant in a highly, in an area that's got a lot of property vacant, we're doing things like, I'm saying to my team is that if, let's say, the letting fee was $600, well, I'm happy to take $100 off that and apply that to doing virtual furniture, getting a floor plan for the property, upgrading photography. Just so I'm chipping in a little bit, I guess, with the clients. So because the last thing I want is my clients or my landlords to think, shit, days on market are exploding, these guys can't do the job. So, which we're desperately trying to do. So I'm just coming from that level.
And you're also demonstrating the fact that, hey, we're being creative, we're doing this.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it with, you know, across the entire business. If we can be launching something per month. So here's a new thing we're doing. Here's a new thing. So you don't need to do it all in one go. But if you go, here's a new thing. Here's a new thing. I think that actually goes a long way. The other thing, Matt, I really like about this, and think about this as senior property managers, is if you can get a video out around that, it means you're setting the standard upon which your team build a conversation on top of. So as simple as that is as a framework, it actually helps them enormously in getting into that kind of momentum and mode.
Yeah, I think also, Michael, I look at rentals, property management. It's a sales business as well. So, you know, a lot of people, the rent roll we bought, funny enough, had really poor photography and you know, not enough photography, not enough stuff to make it present well in the marketplace. So I look at this as a product like any product. We're going to market it. It's got to be top of the pops in the sense of, you know, competitively to the other properties on the market. So I always look at PM as from a sales side of thing, because that's naturally where I come from. But it's important. And funny enough, my team, because I've explained this to the team, have been using this conversation with landlords, and they've been so appreciative and taking up some of these offers. So it's just good for loyalty and longevity, I think. And then we also might be able to get, just say 30% of these guys have got more property. We might get more property as a result of this.
And Matt, back to that point that we talked about in the sales session, how do we make your property the most attractive in this market?
Yep, totally. And that's it. And Fiona said last week, you know, this is the most important time, and Catherine's hyping this onto the team, this is the most important time that we need to show value to our clients. If we're not stepping up and showing value, we're like everyone else.
Yeah, look, it might be my connection, but I missed that last bit. I don't know if you guys
Sorry,
got it from Matt. Can you say it again?
So Catherine mentioned to what she felt from
Fiona,
the conversation about this is the time where we really need to be adding immense value to what we do. If we don't, we're just going to be like everyone else. So we've got to be thinking that way strategically. How can we be better than our competitors, and how can we offer better value than we ever have before? No, you've gone frozen.
That was great, Matt. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I'll speak for Michael.
Thank you. Did you get that, Michael?
Yeah, I got a really fast version of it. It was quite, you know what it is, when Zoom grabs some stuff and it goes, and we need to really value kind of thing.
Adding value than ever.
So Nicoletta, anything you'd like to chip in, or anything you'd like to share either about this morning or what's happening within your team?
Yeah, look, we've got a lot of young staff members. I'm one of them. I only took over at the beginning of COVID-19 as a senior PM because one of the, Jackie, who was originally looking after the department's been on maternity leave. Yeah, thank you.
This is called induction by fire.
So I got thrown into the deep end when all this came. So for me, I think I wanted to make sure that all the girls felt like they could come to me, and if they had any issues, do that, because I think we, like all of us girls, are really similar in the office where we want to make sure everything's perfect, and I think we get really frustrated when it isn't, and if we can't get something, there's tears and there's tantrums. So I wanted to make sure, and like all our directors have been really good and really supportive, like coming in, checking on us. Like I tell the girls to go out, take a walk for 15, 20 minutes while they're in the office. So I think we catch up every morning and every afternoon just to see how everyone's traveling and how they're feeling, and if there's any hard conversations that they need to have, well, either myself or the directors can have that conversation, and they can sit in the room with us so they can just see how we're going to approach it. And yeah, I think we're all very empathetic. I think a little bit over empathetic sometimes, so which isn't a bad thing, but it's just trying to figure out, I suppose, a balance. But in saying that, we've been really busy. I was saying before in the previous session, like we've had 15 brand new listings come over in the last 2 weeks. So we've got a lot going on, and yeah, it's been really good, and yeah, everyone's doing a great job. So I'm very, very happy with the team at the moment.
Yeah, look, I think the other thing is, and the point that didn't go unnoticed is the directors of the business, the owners, or the senior, property managers or the head of property management saying, hey, if you need support with something, if you have a difficult conversation, one, by all means, run it past me. So it might just be, let me run past you what I'm thinking of saying, or it might be one of those ones that say, in actual fact, I'm better off to take the lead on this, which, as simple as that is, it gives them a really healthy framework to know. And a lot of the time, if I know that you've got my back, I can actually do it myself anyway.
Yeah.
But the ability to say, hey, if you do have an issue, if you want to escalate it to me, I'm more than happy to, we're here, we're one team, we want to work together on this. We want to achieve the best outcome for the client coming out of it. So that's a really good framework. And I know that Damien and the guys there have really got that view of, hey, if I need support, it's readily available. Yeah, great. Esme, for you, and you guys, did you get the hail as well as Rockhampton?
We get everything. We get cyclones, we get bushfires, we get hail, we get floods, we get everything. So as I told Macquarie Bank, I said, we'll sail through this because we've been through 5 years of every situation possible. So really full marks for our team. As a suggestion from yourself or one of the people a couple of weeks ago, I personally took over a lot of those hard calls, and it's just going slowly back to the senior property manager now. So I'm sure the whole team appreciated that. But yes, we're weeding out the opportunists, but Queensland's had huge legislation change, and we're just waiting like today for the new forms and everything. So we're way behind the other states of Australia. So I think that plus we're about 80% through implementing everything from our property and doing the next trial stage for them and giving them feedback. So we're going through a few different things every day and every week. So yeah, looking very good, and the sun's out. No hail.
Yeah, fantastic. Look, one of my favorite property management leadership quotes comes from Kerry Giesenkamp, and he says, change is messy, then it's beautiful, embrace the mess. So this is really important. If we're putting a new piece of tech in, if we're implementing this, it's okay that it's messy. It's a bit like a garage cleanup. When you're halfway through a garage cleanup, it's going to look worse than before you started. But if you stop halfway through, that ain't a good look. You got to keep going through to the end. So change is messy, then it's beautiful. Let's embrace the mess, because on the other side of this is going to be a better way. The other thing that's going to come out a little bit on the leadership session tomorrow, we've got a guy by the name of Chris Dion, who used to be one of Macquarie Bank's senior operators, but now consulting to the real estate profession. And we're going to be talking about what does it look like when we come out of this. So make sure you're on that, because I think it'll be a really important framework. And part of it, the shift now is, what have we learned? What have we actually learned around business, and how could we potentially create a shift in the way that we are operating in 3 months' time or 6 months' time as a result of what we're learning, what we're gaining from this. So, Matt, you're doing videos for your landlords. That doesn't have to stop just because we're out of this particular health and safety and economic issue. These are things that we've had access to for a while, but we've now activated them. Let's make sure we continue activating the right things to be able to produce that. Okay, good. So guys, any questions or anything you're struggling with, either with the team from a leadership point of view, you'd like to run through?
I have a thing coming in my mind, Michael. With this rent relief issues which we are sorting out with the tenants individually and also with the landlords, especially in Victoria, there are certain guidelines coming up probably by end of this week because of the legislation being passed out last week. And the difference now, what I've read is they're trying to put the focus on rather negotiating a rent relief is to mediate in between the tenants and the landlord. So can we have a little bit of a session on with the property managers, explaining the difference between negotiating and mediating, negotiation and a mediation? Because sometimes in between the landlord and tenants, you might have to be a mediator rather than a negotiator in occasions when dealing with these hardship cases. So is it something you think is valuable to talk about?
Yeah, by all means, yes. I don't see much difference between mediating and negotiating. I think if the negotiation doesn't go to where we can go, it will go to a mediator. That was my understanding. Is that, Marissa, is that your understanding in terms of Victoria?
Yes, I think we are expected to try and negotiate it first, and if we can't, then we can get Consumer Affairs to step in and mediate it.
Yeah. So we won't be doing the mediation, but I think it's fair to say, both from a landlord and a tenant point of view, that you want to get an agreement happening. Don't talk about negotiating with them. Let's get an agreement happening, because if we don't agree, then we're going to mediation, and that is not an enjoyable process. Let me quickly explain what that looks like. Painful. That's the conversation you have. You won't say painful. You just go, here is what it looks like. So let's do whatever we can to come to an agreement around this. And back to something that I think Fiona said brilliantly well, not something that you're happy with, but something that you can live with. Now, if they're turning around and saying, hang on, I'm not happy with this, I can't live with this, then I think you've done your job or the property manager's done their job in getting to that particular place. Okay. From here, the next step is mediation. Do we want to give it one more go? And this is something that we talk about a lot with the sales team, is third-party support. So this is where I might have been having, let's say I'm essentially I'm part of your team, and I've been working with this tenant and this landlord and getting to this particular place. And maybe it's been a week, 10 days, 2 weeks worth. It could be along those lines, guys, backwards and forwards, documentation, presenting and so on. And we're now at a stalemate. This quite often happens in a buying and selling mode where we're at a stalemate, we're $50,000 away. Me as the agent, I can't move it forward. Me as the property manager, I can't move it forward. But you can come in as the head of the department and say, hey, and you can ask the landlord, hey, what's your situation? What's your understanding of the situation? Thank you very much. You can go to the tenant, what's your understanding of the situation? All right, well, what can you live with? And see if we can get a deal together. If we can't, we are heading to mediation. That's my understanding. But the challenge with doing something across Australia, there are all these nuances that are in place per state and per territory then you add New Zealand in as well, although most of the New Zealand members don't have a big property management portfolio. That's the difference. If it gets to mediation, it ain't you. All you're doing is you're applying a. Does anyone else have anything to chime in on that?
We've been working through it. I think the process that the government's made available has been quite helpful. There's two lines on it, one for the tenant, one for the landlord. We've started to include that. And I've found that the emails we're just finalising have been very much around the framework that they would have to work around if they went to mediation, and having those 5 key points on it. And then we're providing a couple of, REIV did a rate checklist that you could punch in some numbers. So we're taking a picture of what that 30% would look like of the income. But the key we've found is getting the information first and foremost. What their previous wage income was, what their post is, and then working through it and presenting the facts, I suppose, and delivering the news.
So Hagan, that's on the Vic government website, is it?
Yeah.
It sounds good for potentially all of us to have a look at. Do you mind sending that through?
Yeah, sure. Once we finalise what we've done, the process, I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, great.
And the emails we put together, even for a bit of review before we do finally action, would be great. So I can send it out.
Yeah. So essentially, I think that will be helpful. Where our goal is to negotiate to agreement. if for whatever reason we can't get to agreement, then it heads to mediation. We're not doing the mediation though, right?
Who applies for mediation, the tenant or the landlord?
Either.
So I've got a situation where I've got a tenant that's been in place since September last year. Their financial position hasn't changed whatsoever. He didn't have a job when they took the property. She did. But he can't prove to me their financial situation has changed. He can't get a job right now because of COVID-19, of course. And my landlord has lost her job, so they've only got one income. Just at me, saying that we need to provide them a 50% discount. My owners can't do that.
Help them find another property. We've had one of those, Matt, and I've helped them with a list of other properties with other agents. More than happy to help them find another property. No, okay.
At that particular price point. Look, I mean, it's interesting you say that. We had our place up here on the Gold Coast, and we're very fortunate the tenant moved out because it allowed us to move in for this time frame. And, you know, we've gone into the Gold Coast platypus bubble, so to speak. But the tenant couldn't afford to pay the rent, so came up with all these stories, and then sort of put to us, unless you drop the rent by $1,000, then da da da. And this is pre COVID-19 kind of thing. And I was like, actually, no, that's not going to happen. But I think one of the key things is to still be of service to that person. And the challenge with it is, Matt, is we can move into your little shit mode, and your little shit mode's not the most effective energy to bring into play, and much easier to coach this than to do it when you're in the middle of it. But suffice to say, you know, when we talk about this in the sales session this morning, I'm on your team, I'm on your side. Let's have a look at this. Gee, that's not going to stack up from a mediation point of view because you're in the same financial position as you were before. Why don't, so do you want to stay where you are? Okay, well, that's a bit of a challenge. Why don't we look for something that's actually more in line with the budget you had in mind that potentially can suit your needs? And when things change, we can look again. And then I think Melinda's idea is fantastic. Let's look outside of our portfolio. So we're directing traffic away from potential or within the portfolio, depending on what the situation is, to go through it.
Even you could not negotiate with this guy. Trust me, this is the worst person on the planet of Earth.
No, Matt. So Matt, I have the worst person living next door to me between me and the landlord that we put in there. So she's also my neighbour. We'll do that one over drinks. I reckon we're at that. She's actually,
come on, guys.
This could go on for hours.
We're not going to actually determine who's got the.
I do. I'm going to get award. ARIA Awards next year. Let's have an award for the worst freaking tenant on the planet.
I've got one who's sticking a Mortein can up the back of the new Miele dishwasher. She's up to her third one in 3 weeks because she feels if the dishwasher's not working, she doesn't have to pay her rent. The owner's bought 1 dishwasher. I've had Miele deliver 2 for free, but now they're realising she's sticking the Mortein can up it to break it. And every morning I open my curtains, I get to see her in the backyard from my house.
Okay, and we won't talk about that special sunbathing process she's going through. So, guys, the thing I quite often say to leaders is the biggest issue you either have with a team member or with a client, it's your biggest learning opportunity, because what they're gifting you is clearly the skill set I have ain't cutting it. So less problems or better skills. We can't shift the problems. The problems are going to come at us, right? And this is sort of that mode that sometimes we think as adults we shouldn't have problems. It's actually about what's the skill set we have. So team members this team member's a real problem child. Actually, they're giving me the best opportunity to upgrade my leadership because my standard leadership style ain't cutting it. I need to shift it, evolve it, and change it. Now, in saying that, there are also clients that are far better to be with other agencies to keep them busy while you actually work with clients that you want to work with. And look, I have a fundamental belief that you know we have within our business, and that is we want to work with clients who want to work with us. As simple as that is, it brings that into play. So, you know, it might be a situation to say, hey, let's agree that this isn't working out for all of us. And I don't know how you deal with someone who's putting a Mortein can in the back of a dishwasher, a Miele dishwasher. Like,
she won't be there forever. I keep telling the landlords, I keep telling all our team, she's not going to be there forever. Ever. She doesn't own the property. We will move her on at some point. It's just, a bit of patience.
Yeah.
And process. Lots
all
of
right,
process.
guys, any other questions or points to go through? Would it be good to have someone come into one of the team sessions around the negotiation to mediation process? And it might be that, well, I'll have a chat with them whether we can do it across the board or whether we need to be state specific, some of the nuances that come through. Is that a value? Yes or no?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I think, Michael, you'll find there's some members that are doing, I know Silvana's doing it really well, and I'm sure there's other members out there who are doing it really well as well. So maybe it's more a panel of people within our own RER.
Okay. Okay, good. So we potentially could do that, not next week. I think we've got
nobody's listening to you here.
commonly known as Cynthia Morton next week, and then we can do that the week after. All right, guys. Anything else you want to discuss before we wrap?
That's all good.
All right. Just remember, the leadership premium is alive and well in the business, and I think we'll hear this tomorrow from Chris Dion. He's going to talk tomorrow about having 20% of your time in sort of like an airplay mode where you can look at what does it look like after. And I know it's been very much around now, and that's been totally appropriate, but we're now shifting. It was too early, I think, to talk about opportunities, but now we can start to shift into more of that particular mode. So something to look forward to in terms of tomorrow. So was there a final call on, do we do a 5-minute break and then come back and stay on the same Zoom, or we do a second Zoom like this? Totally up to you.
Stay on then.
Well, let's
stay on. Give us a 5-minute break.
Okay. Let's do a test of stay on and see if that makes a difference.
Okay.
And if it does, great. If not, we can go back to this, or we can move the frequency to every second week if that's the case. I find weekly is easier because then you know it's there. Whereas this is the week that, do we need to put bins out this week, or is it which bin do we put out kind of mode? All right, guys. Hey, thanks for being just awesome leaders in the property management space and making a difference. Your team need you, the clients need you, and I know that you're just putting in that extra effort to help people navigate in the most appropriate way.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.